The University of California Board of Regents met on November 16th through the 18th at UC San Francisco to discuss and vote on several issues affecting the UC campuses, including an 8% fee increase for students. Students and faculty alike were appalled by the possible change.
And I'm going to graduate with $25,000 in debt, which is more than my parents make each year. And when I go home, I'm going to be a day laborer because I have to support 6 nieces, nephews, brothers, sisters. And that's a shame because I won't be able to pursue a career with my BA.
Furthermore, I'm here because we're raising fees again. Even though you raised fees last year and we had restoration from the state in over $300 million, you continue to degrade workers, you're cutting their pension, and honestly, the future, as Udall said in his open letter, is the UC system. However, the administration of the UC system is failing to provide for all Californians and to provide a future that is viable so that we can succeed as a state. I'm here in opposition to the fees. I'm in opposition to the name change from fees to tuition, and I hope that we can talk about this more. Like Speaker John Perez said, let's table this for further discussion. And honestly, UCOP, you need to do a better job showing the state what the UC means, what the CSU means, and what the JC means, because right now, we as students cannot bear the brunt for your failing states. Thank you.
Your blue and gold program is a sham unless you are willing to fund it by increasing the return to aid portion of UC's tuition. Otherwise, it will be funded, and it is being funded, by reducing every student's financial aid package and by increasing the amount that each student needs to work or earn or borrow. You know this because you have been told it by your internal financial aid studies, and I have now posted these on the Council of UC Faculty Association website. You don't take the advice of your financial aid people because increased middle income access is not a financial priority for UC, it is simply a public relations priority. Here's what your advisors think you should do. The advisors think you should cap the tuition on all families coming to UC to 10% of adjusted gross income, and that you should increase the return to aid from 33% to 45%. And here's a third proposal, that you could offer free tuition if you were willing to borrow against your financial needs for instruction rather than construction. And why are you pepper spraying students outside?
And UCPD was pepper spraying student protesters outside. Approximately 15 to 20 were hit by the spray. There were also 13 arrests outside the Regent Meeting, 11 of which were UC students. However, the meeting continued with UC President Mark Udall addressing the concerns of the public.
All right, on tuition fees, it's necessary, in my judgment, to raise it $822 a year. First thing you need to know is that raises $180 million in annual revenues. The second thing you need to know is $64 million of it goes back into scholarships. So the net increase is around $115, $116 million. That will allow the campuses to reinvest in faculty hiring, of which we've been doing very little, expand course offerings, expand academic support, and meet our new requirements to make contribution to the employer contributions to the pension plan. Now, what happens if you don't do it? This board does not have to endorse it. I understand that. Endorse these proposals. We still have the $340 million. There is no way that you can just dance around it. We have $340 million of hardcore costs that are obligations, just like our debt service, our multi-year agreements with unions, our retiree health, and so forth down the line. I would say there are only a couple of mechanisms out there. One is to abolish programs. That would be done campus by campus. We don't do that centrally. Another would be more layoffs. You can do the math. You'd probably be talking, I don't know, they may have better numbers, but 5,000 to 10,000 people laid off over time. You can reduce the enrollment targets because we have 11,000 over enrollment. That is 11,000 Cal residents for whom we receive no appropriations from the state. And actions such as that. And to get real about the tuition and fees, which with the registration fee will be a little over $12,000, we are still less expensive than Michigan, Penn State, and Illinois. And now, we've talked this morning, I'll talk about the Blue and Opportunity program. And this idea that it's a sham is nonsense. It's, in my judgment, a canard. It's inaccurate. People know it's inaccurate. When we moved the Blue and Gold program to $80,000, if you're financially aid eligible, and I understand that's a big qualification, you can't have a trust fund and have $1 million in the bank. $80,000 covers 69% of all California families. Look at the message we're sending. The fees are going up, but over 2/3 of California families will not pay it, period. And if you have someone who says, I'm making $20,000 a year and I'm not eligible for the Blue and Gold, you send me their name on the campus and I'll get it taken care of. We'll just get it done. And if you have someone dropping out and they're in that group, again, send me or one of the chancellors a note and we will get it done for that student. And we will cut through whatever bureaucratic barriers are making that difficult. And we're also providing that for next year, given the economic conditions in California, that students between $80,000 and $120,000 will not pay any of the fee increase. It's sort of a fee increase holiday for a year, recognizing we got over 10% unemployment rate, we have foreclosures, we have families that are struggling. So we're trying to give them a year. So if anyone who's dropping out for this 8% increase is making under $120,000, I don't get it, because they're not paying. They must be dropping out for other reasons. And there are plenty of other reasons. You may have to write checks to mom and dad because one of them lost their jobs. I mean, I understand. There are brothers and sisters, there are extended families to take care of. But it's not because of this 8% fee increase if it's approved.
Student Regent Jesse Chang and Student Regent Designate Alfredo Morillas Jr. were lobbying Regents to vote against the 8% fee increase, advocating other alternatives.
So, we've talked to, early on, I talked to some Regents who, could be seen as more moderate or conservative, who said they were on the fence. So that kind of signaled to us that, hey, this isn't a done deal. If we maybe do some behind the scenes work, maybe we can get enough votes on the finance committee for the 8% to not be voted in. So yesterday and today, Jesse and I, as well as the white liners, have been, trying to talk to those swing votes to see if we can get enough votes to go against the fees. We can't say where we're at yet. We still have some work to do, but it's definitely, we're pursuing that strategy aggressively. So, so if you believe the numbers that the university itself puts out, we're about over $1 billion in the hole. And if we do the 8% fee increase that only we'll get to 55% of the students, we'll get about $115 million from that net after return to aid money. That is such a tiny amount of money. I don't think relatively, don't get me wrong, relatively, that we need bigger picture solutions to solve this problem. And I feel like it's more trouble than it's worth because, as we saw, the students are getting arrested, they're getting tear gassed, the officer pulled the gun. I mean, this is for something that's like what, less than 1% of our budget hole. We need to be thinking bigger picture, and I just don't think that 8% is going to really do what we need it to.
I also feel like it's kind of giving Sacramento a buy. Like there's a thing where you go up to someone and you say, okay, well, let me give you a budget. It's already factored 8% fee increase, right? That's now $115 million that you don't have to account for. Well, why don't they have to account for it, right? We're a state public institution, right? They have an obligation to us to fund us, even if they're in a really difficult situation, which they're in a difficult situation. Totally understand, right? But you still have an obligation to us, and we should make a statement about that obligation, right? And after we make that statement, it doesn't go well, then we can have another conversation about it. But until then, we should at least, it's not even, I feel like it's not even putting the question to the state.
We should
right?
at least wait till the special session that Governor Schwarzenegger called has been completed. And we should really begin negotiating with Governor-elect Brown now, because he's going to be in the driver's seat in the future. And that's who we should be negotiating.
However, the Board of UC Regents approved the increase 5-15, resulting in students paying an additional $822 starting fall 2011.
Great. We'll take into account the comments that were made earlier to complete the record there. Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
No.